Luka Dončić is the mature process that is dragging this Mavericks team to relevancy season after season. But I had a deep breath and I had to think about it the other day. He's only 22 years old. What Luka is accomplishing at his age is beyond astonishing. So we can talk about the other standout players in Europe, the Giannis's, the Jokic, the Goberts, to name a few, and those that have paved the way before, Sabonis, Petrovic, Dirk, just to mention a few. But I do believe when it's all said and done, and Ovie, I'm going to give you the first touch because I'm so happy you're back on the show, my guy. Luka will be the greatest European player of all time in the NBA.
Now, I like this argument because, as you guys know, and as for all of the people who have watched the show and followed us since we sort of got started this whole deal, I've been big on Luka from the beginning. And this take, I think, is a very juicy one, not only because Luka's obviously proven himself and his worth to the league, but because there's so many other talented players from Europe that we have to bring into this discussion. My final take on this whole deal is, look, I feel like Luka has the potential and he's headed in that direction. I don't think we can deny that he has been the one European player that's had the absolute biggest impact in his first 4 years in the NBA. We haven't seen this before from any player, European, around the world, any foreign player, non-American born. We haven't seen this impact in the first 4 years in the league. However, I feel like it would be rude not to mention guys like Dirk, not to mention guys like Tony Parker, not to mention, a lot of the greats that have, come before him and sort of, like Jaydee said, paved the way. We have to look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's obviously the reigning monster in the league, and I think the only reason why I would give Luka the sort of edge over Giannis at this point is Giannis didn't have the same impact that Luka had his first 4 years. Who knows where Luka will be at the same point in their career, So, I mean, I feel like Luka, he's proven himself. And if he continues to progress in the way he has, hey, I think, we might be looking at one of the best players to ever have played the game, bar European, American. I feel like he's that caliber of player.
And I like the fact that BJ's putting his notes together for his argument. So Mo, I'm gonna go to you. Yeah, since Luka entered the league at 19 in 2018, he has just been the embodiment of consistency. We just saw the stat line of what he's done year after year, produced it year after year across the whole board and impacting the whole game. But Mo, how do you feel about that suggestion that he will go down as the greatest European player ever to play in the NBA?
I like it. I like the take because Luka Dončić is definitely a special talent in this league. What stands out to me about Luka Dončić is he's only 23 years old, but he's already had more 30-point triple-doubles than almost any NBA legend that you want to know. His accolades, his statistics, they're up there with the best of them. He's been ready for this ever since he was a young teenager playing over in Spain. He's built for this. But if we're talking about the greatest European players of all time, there is a man currently in the league who is residing just above Luka Dončić in the MVP discussions, miles above Luka Dončić on the Defensive Player of the Year discussions, and that man is the reigning Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I've got to give some love to my Nigerian brothers out there because Giannis, he might not be European, he's from Nigeria, but the NBA state that he's Greek and European, so we're going to roll with it for this because Giannis has the chance to go down as one of the greatest NBA players of all time. He can finish his career, if there's no injuries and things go well, as one of the greatest to ever do it. He's only 27. It's not like he's super old. He's 27. He's already a Finals MVP, already a two-time MVP. It should maybe be 3 or 4 if we're going to keep it 100. A lot of voters and a lot of media members don't like to give the same award out to guys year in and year out. That's the reason why LeBron James was overlooked for a number of MVPs. So Giannis should have a lot more MVPs than he will end up with probably. The Defensive Player of the Year, he's been arguably the best defender in the NBA for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Maybe he hasn't got the hardware to prove it, but he has been the best defender in the NBA through those years. Add to that the Finals MVP and looking like a very strong contender to get back to the Finals this year. That remains to be seen, and that's a conversation we can have later in the show. But Giannis Antetokounmpo will go down as one of the best players to ever do it. As Ovie said about Luka, Luka's a great player, don't get me wrong, but for me, Giannis's defense is what takes him over the edge.
Luka's a generational talent. I love that argument for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I love the dominance that he has. Shaq already coined him the most dominant player in the game of basketball. But BJ, you've seen it all, right? You're talking about the current crop, the crop beforehand, and of course the legends that paved the way. So I want to know from you, with your vision and what you've seen over your tenure during basketball, playing, seeing, overseeing, I want to know, do you believe that Luka will be the best ever when it's all said and done?
Well, JD, since we adopted you here in Detroit, starting on Sunday, you got a spicy take, and we love this. We love this. The 313 is in the building. JD, this is hot. You know what I really love is because Luka is at the start of his career, and without question, without hesitation, he's going to make his argument. He's going to make his argument, and when it's all said and done in his career, he could be the most accomplished player of all time. I've had the fortune to play against, Dirk Nowitzki and Tony Parker and these players, Tony Kukoc. But the greatest player I've ever seen from start to finish has been Arvydas Sabonis. Giannis is without question the best all-around player I think will come out of Europe, but Arvydas Sabonis is the greatest player I've ever seen coming from Europe. When I watch Jokic today, I'm seeing the same, except Arvydas was that much more athletic. He was incredible. He could play. He could do it all. In my book, he is one of the top 50 greatest players of all time. Okay, of all time, what I've seen. Now, Jokic and Giannis, I think, will make their statement. I think they are both, Giannis is in the thick of his career. Luka Dončić is at the beginning of his career. He's only, 23 years of age. I think they will make their case. I think they will state their case, and I think they will go on to be great players. But Arvydas Sabonis, when you say the greatest European player of all time, I think without question, he's the most accomplished at this moment. When he played over in Europe, when he got to the NBA, he was literally a shell of himself. And I wish he would have had the opportunity to come over here and play at the beginning of his career when he was in his prime. And I think you would have had an opportunity to see how great of a player he really was.
I think you're so right, BJ. And look, Ovie and Mo nodding in approval for the fact that Arvydas Sabonis, what he's done in the game. But Ovie, Mo, feel free to jump in anytime. How do you feel about BJ's argument? And all three of you have made compelling arguments for your players.
It's only right that we give respect to the OGs. As BJ said, he spoke facts. He spoke undoubtedly facts about Arvydas Sabonis, how great he was, and the foundation that he laid. But we're talking about the greatest European players to play in the NBA. And unfortunately, as BJ said, the Sabonis that came over to play for the Portland Trailblazers wasn't the prime Arvydas that you would have maybe have seen out in Europe. If he had been able, obviously there was political factors, there were other factors that prevented him from coming to the NBA, but he came over, as BJ described, as a shell of himself. And I wish that the NBA had got to see him in his prime, because if we then extend this conversation to who are the best European players to play over in Europe, then there's a whole nother caliber and a whole nother category of players. We've got guys like Giannis Kromins and Vladimir Chichenko, who played in the 50s and 60s, who were dominant forces. Then you've got guys who play more recently like Sergio Llull. So, if we're going to keep this conversation to just the NBA, then unfortunately, because of the way in which Arvydas came over at the tail end of his career, I don't think he's in that conversation, but he is definitely up there in the conversation of greatest European players of any league, any division, any federation, most definitely. But if we're keeping this just to the NBA, then I think personally Giannis can go down as the greatest. Luka Dončić is up there to make a case. And of course, we've got to respect Pau Gasol, Dirk Nowitzki, and all of these other guys who came into the NBA and made a huge impact too.
I feel you, Mo. I feel you and I don't feel you, but I feel you. I feel what you're trying to say. I just feel like my main argument, and for both of you guys would be, on the side of Giannis, defensively, there is no comparison. You can't compare what Giannis is able to do on the defensive end of the floor and Luka Dončić. However, there's a saying in basketball, great offense beats great defense every day of the week. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like where Luka Dončić is and how he's able to affect and literally change the whole trajectory of a team, offensively. And for half of the time, I feel like we've seen him. He's only just now starting to really, I think, pay attention to his physical shape and conditioning. The more he starts to take that side of things seriously, the more we don't see highlights of him out smoking hookah in Greece on the islands in his downtime, and he actually takes the game a little bit more serious. No. The more he takes it serious, I really think it's scary what we could see from Luka Dončić.
Yeah.
And I really feel like you can argue Luka Dončić statistically has had the biggest impact of any international player, period, in his first 4 seasons in the NBA. Now, granted, obviously, the times have changed and scoring is a lot higher these days than it was. So you have to sort of, adjust it as you will. However, I just feel like the impact he's had at his age now, he's just a completely different beast. Yeah. And as far as Sabonis, I feel like we saw one of the things that stands out about his game was just his IQ. I feel like his IQ as a big man, his ability to pass the ball, his ability to create was something that was so unique at the time that he came into the NBA. We were seeing, obviously a veteran European style of basketball. And I feel like that wasn't as common in the league at that time. However, what we're seeing in Luka Dončić was an 18, 19-year-old coming into the league, and he has the IQ of a guy who's been playing in the NBA till his mid-30s. I mean, you're seeing the plays that he makes, IQ-wise, the composure he has in big moments. This is stuff that guys don't develop until, later on down the line. We saw what happened the first time Kobe, tried to rise up for big shots, RIP to Black Mamba, but we saw what happened the first time he tried to take big shots in LA when the lights was bright. He airballed, and he obviously came back, and that made him better. We haven't seen that from Luka Dončić. The first time he's come into the playoffs, he's come in and he's been an absolute savage, from jump. So he's different. He's different, man. He's different.
I think Jaydee. I think both of Mo and Ovie made good points here, but I wanted to have them take this into consideration. Out of all of those players, let's talk about those 3 players that we both just all said: Luka Dončić, Giannis, and Arvydas Sabonis. I think out of those 3 players, Arvydas will probably be able to play his game in any era the way he played. I think he would have to make the least amount of adjustments in any era, whether it was in that era, in the 80s and the 90s, or in now. Certainly, Luka is not going to be playing the way he's playing in the 90s of being the prime, without question. Without question, Giannis is not going to be playing the era playing 5. He's not playing 5 in our era. He's not playing 5.
No.
Okay.
You imagine Giannis trying to run into those New York boys.
He's not bullying and going to the basket in that era. Now, do I think all of those players would be successful? Yes. I think they're all terrific talents. But I don't think that they will be playing the way you are seeing them play right now. And I think that's the difference.
No 2 ways about it. I'm just looking at it this way. You can vote on your favorite European player of all time, and you can have your say in this debate, because whether it's Dirk's 21 years in the league, Tony Parker's 4 rings, Giannis's, list of accomplishments, which are still growing all of the time, or Luka's greatness and potential, trust me when I say this to you, that is an ongoing conversation that shows how global the NBA is.